Is Gen-Dro, and as promised, I told you that I would be around 2 o'clock streaming about doing basic edits on Krita. Now, I don't expect you guys to learn anything big or anything crazy, but I wanted to go ahead and share some of the things that I learned since I started here. A little bit of touch-ups on like how I do my animations and how I do graphic editings. So that way, even beginners like me and everybody else who's just starting out can kind of get a little leg through. And it's all I'm only using all free tools. I didn't pay for Krita or anything like that, so it's a free program, so why not utilize it? But I will give credit out to Krita, and that's all we'll be using today. So I'm not going to give credit to anything else unless I'm using somebody else's stuff. But we should be fine because I'm not using anyone else. I have left this schedule right here open, mostly because I want you guys to know that aside from this, I do gaming streams if you haven't noticed already. So you can go ahead and check that out. You can always stop by and hang out. I have all sorts of stuff on YouTube, videos and whatnot. So hopefully you guys enjoy and just relax because that's all we're going to be doing today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So generally, when it comes to editing, you generally want to plan and stuff like that, and you're going to be using a lot of layers, and you can flatten them out to make them easier, but it will make it complicated. So whatever you decide to do with your edits, keep in mind that you don't want to adjust, you don't want to start animating on the workshop until you are satisfied for what you have. Now, like my way of doing things is, if I'm doing a multi-layered edit, I use layers as basically my template of how I want the animations to roll. But if I put, like, for example, I'll put a number right next to the name. So I'll go over here and I'll change the name. But I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So let me go ahead and check this out. I mean, you're looking at all my stuff. I don't know why I have this on here. Shit, I didn't want to have this crowd control here. So let me see if I can take it off. Nah, fuck it. Well, doesn't really matter. I didn't want to keep that on there. I forgot. So my bad, guys. If you see it on your screen, just ignore it the best way you can. You can just drop it down on the bottom where I usually put the follows and notifications on there, and that'll probably be easier for you. I'll try to keep this as I'll keep the explanations as basic as possible. I'm not, super smart, so I'm not going to confuse you. I promise. But anyways, let's go ahead and cancel this. I don't know why I'm opening. I want a new one. Give me a new one. All right. So usually I'll start off with if I'm doing it based on an overlay or whatever, I will use my previous template. But today I'm going to show you how to make a different type of overlay. Just a quick, easy one. And then we'll go ahead and close that out real quick. No, I'm not going to save that. Any modifications? So generally, you have this big old white thing, and you're just like, what am I going to do with this stuff? Why why bother? What's the dealio? All right, why? So what I usually do is I will probably go ahead and add a new. I'll press that plus button right here, and then I'll just delete this background because I don't really need it. And then we're going to add another layer to basically have it on top. That bottom layer, all right? So this, from the bottom up, is how it works. So this is your bottom layer, then your next layer, and then every single one that goes up above it is basically layers that are going to be on top of what you put on already. You can move these around in any way you want just by holding it, dragging it, and as soon as you see that little blue line, as you can see it right there, as soon as you see that, let go, and boom. You just switch layers. So if you ever have layer problems or you feel like you messed up, you don't have to delete or start all over or hit the retry button. All you got to do is just move it and you're good to go. You're Gucci. So I'm going to go into animation very lightly during this part, but I really just want to go ahead and show you how you can do just quick and simple edits. So imagine this is your big screen. So let's say I wanted to... Let's go ahead and pretend that this is your OBS screen. You see it black, it's completely black, and you're just trying to figure out where you want to put stuff on there. So generally, to set it up, I'll set the whole thing black to give an idea. Then I'll select this square shape because most stuff is going to be square unless you're going to do some major editing. But like I said, this is beginner, so we're not going to mess around with that too much. So basically, I would just go ahead and be like, okay, so I want my screen here. So I'll put a little marker here. I want my screen there. I want my Gen-Dro TV here, and I want my chat box right here. I want my alerts over here. And I'm not even kidding you, it's just that quick. And I know I'm going really fast right now, but I'm trying to explain to you while doing some basic stuff. So basically I would do that, and basically that will give me a template of where I want to do things. And I put it on the bottom layer so I can give myself a guide on where I'm going to put stuff. So when I'm doing effects and stuff like that, I'll usually start off with a color. So any color you want, you don't have to do the overlay in black or whatnot. So I would do, let's see, you click on this little square right up here. I don't know if you can see it, but if you can just squint your eyes, you'll see that I clicked on the white square right there underneath tools. And then I'll choose a color. And if you haven't noticed already, red is my favorite color to use on this overlay. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. You can switch the colors around at will, and I will show you how to do that as well. Now remember, as long as you're highlighted on there, all the edits and all the stuff you do will be on the layer that you have highlighted. So please keep that in mind. Do not confuse yourself. And I usually go for like a really bright color because you can adjust this later. So for example, say if I wanted to create my little thing right here for my alerts. It's red. Got it. Hopefully this paint will help and it won't go over. All right, you just colored it, and there's your first part of the layer. We're not going to add any more to it because we want to make sure that we're paying attention to what we're doing. So we're going to go to layer style by right-clicking on the layer, okay? So I'm going to repeat it again. Oop, didn't mean to do that. Eyeball. So we're going to right-click. We're going to go to layer style right underneath properties. You should see it. It's hard to miss. You're going to go to layer styles. Now, here's where the fun stuff begins. This is where you start adjusting and trying to figure out where you want things to be. And if the music is too loud and it's distracting, let me know and I will drop it quite a bit. But let's keep on moving on here. So I want to do a bevel. And most people use bevels to make it look popped out and stuff like that. And I want to bevel. I'm not going to do any kind of contouring or anything. You'll notice that, oh wait, everything's all thing. No, you just got to click right down here. Even after you click the check mark, you still got to click on this to start editing. And then you get a couple options. On your style, you get an inner bevel, you get your outer bevel, you got your emboss. But today we're going to work on the inner bevel and the outer bevel. Inner bevel is basically everything. The beveling is going to come out in the inside of it, and the outer one is going to come on the outside. Now you use the outside if you're adding a layer, but you want that layer to look like it's indented into the layer you're putting it on. So I'll show you what I mean. If it's confusing, I will definitely give you more of a depth here. Okay, so on here you can adjust the size, and if you move your thing over, you can see how your sizes will affect your edits. It doesn't look like it's affecting it much. Oh no, there it is. It just takes a minute. As you can see, the more higher you go on the size, the more of the bevel pops up. You can choose the direction that you want it to go down. So say you want an inner bevel that goes downward instead of upward, and you can choose this, and it'll completely change the whole thing, and it'll look like it's beveling inside, kind of. You're going to have to play around with it a little bit, but that's generally how that works. So for me, I usually go about right here. That's generally my beveling for most stuff. And if I wanted to soften it up, like say if I want rounder corners, I would increase the softness. You don't want to do too much of softness because it can mess up your edits. And once you do your edits on Krita, for whatever reason, if you try to re-edit it afterwards and it causes you issues, the way I'm teaching you is so easy that it wouldn't even matter. And just to let you know, I'm not going to slow down, but you can always pause and check on how everything is going. But I'm going step by step. All right, so you know that if you up your soften, it'll start to round out. Start seeing it. As you can see it, you got to look at it really closely. It'll start to round off, and it'll look more of a round kind of contour as opposed to a straight hard line. But I'm going to go ahead and put it on 3. I don't want it to be too much. Now, You got your angle. Now, shading angle is a little bit different, all right? So you're going to be using global light. I always click on that because it's probably a good idea to have all your overlay stuff uniform. And by the way, if you don't do full overlays, you can still use this for a backdrop for your profile picture if you don't like the setup that I'm using. You can do whatever you want. I'm just showing you how I do it, so that way you can reference that later for in case you want to do your own personal, private type of customizations. I know that there are a lot of options and a lot of stylish options that you can go ahead and look up and use, but if you really want to personalize it, this is the best way to do it. So you got your angle here, and this what this does is it controls where the light is supposedly hitting, okay? And when I say light, I mean like basically the shimmer, the light, how you can tell that it's 3D and it's popping out of you. You use this light to do it. Now, generally, my angles are generally around 76% degrees. I do that because it's not overwhelming, it's not completely obvious, and you can get a kind of an idea of how it looks. It'll start to change it. But you see, I don't have like super dark lines on this because right here is a little bit lighter. So if we, let me press OK on here real quick so you can zoom in. So as you can see, it'll start to look kind of like that. It'll be two different shades, so it'll look prettier. Looks nice, looks nice. All right, now we can go back to the layer style and continually edit. So we go back to here, and it'll do that. Now you can adjust how much your whiteness is. I don't have any gloss contour. Like I said, this is a little bit more basic, so you guys don't have to worry about that. Now on highlight mode, I usually like to use linear light. It kind of gives it the best quality as far as angles and shades. And I will drop usually my lighter mode unless I'm trying to go like for really, really bright. I'll drop my opacity to probably around 20%. I'll keep my opacity on the shader mode at multiply. I don't really mess with that, but if you really want to mess with it, you can play around with it. You can make it darker if you want to. Darker actually always emphasizes better, but if you go 100%, it'll show. It'll be really, really, really dark. But let's go ahead and keep that on 75%. And then that's basically it for the bevel and emboss for one piece of thing. And it was very simple. I'm explaining it, so I took a little bit longer, but you can kind of get an idea of how it looks. It looks pretty, and then you can adjust the size of it by going over here. So I would go right here, and it says the Control T is a key, like a hotkey for it, or you can just click on this little button right here. Looks like a frame, right? And it'll turn back to its original color, but don't worry, it doesn't stay that way. And you could adjust the size however you want, whether you want to stretch it out into a box. And then as soon as you're done, you click on the arrow button and boom. The bevel stays, the layer effect is on there, and you're good to go for that. For that. All right, now let's talk about inner beveling. All right, so for example, say you want to have an inner bevel that shows like maybe your picture or your camera and your face and however you got it where you're talking and stuff like that. Say you want it to look like it's going inwards on the bevel. So for that, you can't really go ahead and grab a picture or affect it in any way, shape, or form. You got to use your ideas. So we're going to go ahead and give an example based on my overlay right here. We're going to go ahead and move it. Use the middle mouse button or, these little things right here, the little tabs to move your stuff around. And then you just want to adjust it a little bit. Try to go as close as you can. The more you zoom in, the easier it is to adjust it, obviously. But you can kind of get a little gist of how I do things. Now let's go overlap it a little bit because we wanted to show that the picture is embeveled inside this, right? So we'll go ahead and do that. And I would use a black just because doesn't necessarily matter. We're going to add a layer on top. So we're going to add the plus layer right here on the right. Now we're going to be on paint layer 3. And here we're going to do another box. It doesn't have to be perfect right away. You can adjust it later on. The more you mess with it, the more difficult it becomes, and you just take more time. I just usually use the move button, and I just move it wherever I want it to. And then I'll go into and fill it in with some black, so that way we can have it uniform. All right. So now we have the black. We're not messing with this. We don't want to touch anything else to it except the beveling. Now, this time we're going to work with outer bevels. And this is how you get that little look where it's just inside. All right, it's going to look really wonky when you first do it. All right, you don't even know what the hell is going on here. So an inner bevel, you generally want it to go inside, not out, up. You know, you don't want it to pop up. As you can see, it looks like it's popping up. I'm pointing at the screen, but it's popping up around here and has a little outer thing. It just looks weird. Don't worry, that's normal. Don't let it confuse you. Drop it down. You want the direction to go down. Now, you want the size to go down. You don't want the bevel to be overly bearing because you already have a nice little bevel on side of it. So you want to do it as small as possible. And if you zoom in a little bit, you could probably see where the beveling is going. See? There you go. 4 pixels. Now it has a little bit of thing. Now we're going to adjust. If you want to soften it, you can do that too. Now we're going to adjust the lighting, and we want the lighting to be the same as the previous one. Now, like I said, I usually use 76. So I'm going to do 76. You do not have to use 76. So I'm going to roll it down here with my mouse wheel, and it'll look pretty halfway decent. We got to mess with this. Of course, we want the opacity of the light to be very low. So 20% is fine with me. There you go. Now we got a little bit of an inner bevel, as you can see. And then we want to drop the altitude, which is how high the beveling is going to be, to a -4, I usually do. If it doesn't show up well, just keep on playing around with it until you get the inner bevel that you're looking for. If you need it to be darker so it emphasizes that it's going inwards, make sure you put your opacity on the shadow really high. And you can drop your white very low to the point where it doesn't even matter. Where it's not even barely showing. And we'll press OK. And you can take a look. If you look and zoom in, it has a little soft thing. And like I said, play with it. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is what it's going to look like when you do it, but it will definitely look close. And you can see the shadow that's going over it, where the bevel is shadowing over. You can choose to keep that on there. It actually looks pretty decent once you put it on an overlay. It looks really good. But that's basically outer and inner bevels for beginners. You can play around with it how you feel it. Now, let's go ahead and work on something else. So, we already did the beveling. We did the outer bevel. We did the inner bevel. What's next on our step? It looks plain. It just looks like a big plastic box. Yeah, it does always take longer to explain than to actually do it. So, oh, wait. Who else is here? I'm so glad my roof is getting fixed because at this point I'm at the point where I'm going to drench our doubts and let imagine throwing just walk away. All right, so let's go ahead and keep on moving along this. Nobody catch the nose pass, no. All right, we're going to go back to layer style, and this is where it gets a little interesting. We want it to look like it's shining, right? So the best way to do shining effects is a gradient overlay. So you click on here, you start it up, and at first it's not going to look like it does much, so we're going to go ahead and play around with it. Now remember, we always keep this at 76. For me, anyway. You can do whatever angle you want for lighting, whatever works best for you. If you want your lighting to be center, then you just adjust it and have these arrows pointing right here. Arrows pointing on the direction of where you want your light to be in, so that way that's your center of light. Right now, my center of light is on the top right of the screen and then shining down. So the way that's pointing is where the light is coming from. Okay? Easy as pie. If you need to play around with it to understand what I'm doing, it's probably better that you do so. Now here's where a lot of people don't understand where to go from here. You can choose whatever kind of stuff you want over it. So whatever you see here, you can do it, and you can even create your own up here. There's a little option right here that you can create your own little customized gradient overlay. I'm just going to use a basic because we're doing basic learning. So now that we have that done, and we want it to multiply a little bit, we're going to put the opacity up high so we can see the effects of the gradient. I want to do a linear light as always because it's a light effect that I'm trying to go for. And then we drop the opacity till we get the proper coloring that we want. Now, generally for linear light overlays, if it's not super bright, I usually have it pretty low. But this kind of gives me a guide. See, the lower it goes, the better. You can click it, or you can roll your mouse however you want to do it, wherever you want to do it. And if you don't like the way it looks, we can also do darken, which also works just as similarly. And it'll look like it's got a little reflection. And the more you do the overlay, the more opacity you got, the more effects you got. So for here, let's say I want to go 50%. It'll darken it up by 50%. And there you have a nice little shading, and it looks a little bit better. All right, next. If you want a little bit of designs on here, here's where it gets a little crazy. So I want to do a pattern overlay, and say I want to use one of these patterns. There's a whole bunch of patterns they have. You can create your own pattern, but that is more expert stuff, so we're going to avoid it. Let's go ahead and use what the tools they gave us. Now, generally, I use these stars because my theme for Gen-Dro Studio has always been the star. It will be the star no matter what I change, no matter what cartoon I put on there. The symbol will always be the star. So I already have what I need. So I could just click on star right here, and then I can adjust it. So if you move over here, you can adjust how many stars you want. So it'll start to look pretty cool. And the neat part is, because it's all on one special effect, the darkness actually from the shading affects the print overlay. And it looks really cool. It starts to look better. Actually, you can up it as dark as you want. It gets better as you go down and down and down and down and down. Let's see. See? And now I have what you usually see on Gen-Dro Studios. Isn't that pretty cool? I like that. All right, and then that's pretty much all it is. If you want your stars to be indented inside, you can actually do that. So there is, let me see if I can do it. There's the texture bar. So once you do the bevel and emboss, your contour and your texture will unlock. Now, if you want to put some textures in here and you want it to make it look like your stars are going inward, we're going to go ahead and use the same texture we used before and make sure that the scale is identical to the pattern overlay. So right now, my pattern overlay right now is at 43%. So we want our texture to be at 43%. So we're going to go and scale it to 43 here. All right, so when it comes to depth, understand that 100% will not give you the depth you want, so you have to change it. I usually go down, and then you can start to see, as you adjust it a little bit, exactly what you're looking at. And now it looks like the stars are embedded in the actual overlay. And that transforms into this when you look at it on the screen. And that, my friend, is how you do animations with bevels, patterns, colors, and overlays. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Simple, basic stuff. Anybody can do it. It literally only took me, let's see, what's my time on here? It literally only took me 23 minutes to explain to you how to do that. And it can be even quicker once you start getting a hang of it, once you start understanding how you want to do it, once you figure out your overlay and what you want to look at. Play around with it as much as you can. I have spent hours just trying to figure out what I want to do with it, how I want it to look, and you'll probably be doing the same. Don't try to do the project all at once if you feel like you're overwhelmed. If you're overwhelmed, go back to it later. I promise you, artistry doesn't come to you like this. You need the moment. You need the right time, and you just have to be there mentally to do it. But that's how you do an overlay. Should title be Critic Basics, Easy Animations and Overlay Edits for Streamers? I mean, I suppose. I mean, I could do that. I mean, Critic Basics, Easy Animations and Overlay Edits is pretty much the same. But I guess the order does make sense. All right, so now that you understand how that works, you can play around with the colors however you want. Like I said, if you want to do adjustments on the gradients, you just click on here and you can do edits right here. And you can edit your own type of overlay. You can check the color and play around with it. It does get a little difficult, and I don't want to get into it because to explain this would be a little hard. But now we're going to use what a lot of things you see on there. We're going to use animations. Now we can use the animations on overlay. Me personally, I won't because it's too much strain on my streaming, and I don't want it to kind of affect it because I have a full screen overlay. But for basic ones where you're doing just your like behind your photo or whatever, or your chat, however you do your stuff, for basic stuff like that, it should doing like basic animations like that should be simple. But we're gonna go ahead and clear this out because I don't think that this is necessary for the next step. But I hope you guys learned something. If you're confused or anything, you should let me know, and I will definitely help you out with that. All right, next thing's next. We're going to go ahead and go into the animations. So generally when you do animations, you're going to be working and you're going to be playing around with your animation workspace. You'll find it on your window. Oh, whoopsies. You'll find it on your window. Look up workspace, go to animation. It's right there. If you want to go back, paint 1. If you want a different type of paint, you can go paint 2. However, whatever you're working on, I'm not going to go into the other workspaces because that's not important. What we're going to be worried about is animation and big paint because we're going basic. All right. So for animation, we're going to be doing multiple layers. This is the fun part. When I say fun part, it's the worst part, really. It's a lot of work, but that's okay. So we're going to make, I guess, let's make this, let's see what I can do here. Let's make this box. Color in here. Let's make this red box right here. Roll around. That's where we're gonna do. We're gonna roll this box around, and how do we do that, you ask? Very, very easily. So we're gonna go ahead to this. We're gonna go to copy layer, and then you can paste the layer through here, and it'll give you 2 layers of the same thing, right? So the next thing you're gonna do is while we're selecting on the second layer, you can. By the way, if you go to properties, you can change it so you won't be so confused. I'll usually go paint layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 just to make it easier for you guys to understand. All right, and then I go over here to where this is controlled, and then you just click outside of it, and you can literally turn the image this way. Now, we wanted to make it look like it's moving forward a little bit, so we can do this. Go to move right here. Just a little bit. We don't want it to go too far. As a matter of fact, we could probably just do make sure that the corners are touching, because that's how we want the movement to be. Easy as pie. Do the same thing. Copy layer, paste it again, rename the layer, paint layer 3. You go over here, then you do some more adjusting. Well, you don't want to touch it. I usually go on the outside and then mess with it. So we're going to turn it a little bit, and then we're going to adjust this part where we're going to be at. Very simple, very tedious, but if you put some work into it, it'll look amazing when you're done. And you just keep on going and repeating over and over again. I'm going to have it roll to the next part, so I'm going to continually do this, so you guys just relax and watch and enjoy the show while I go ahead and finish off this animation. Just thinking SEO, title words, Krita animation streamer, if that's who you're targeting. Oh, no, I'm just doing this because I promised the guys over in the Content Collective that I would do a little instruction video. It's not really something that I care for doing. I'm surprised nobody's joined. I already told everyone that I would probably be doing it today, but not everybody's into the animation part. It happens. It'll just throw me off, and I expect to be done pretty soon. I shouldn't be on here more than a few more minutes here to show you exactly how to get this done. Oh yeah, starting to look good. All right, and then we'll go back over here, change that. We want it to turn a little bit. Make sure it's even as possible. No edits are going to be perfect, so you're going to be playing around with this for a minute. As long as you don't adjust the size, you'll be fine. Oh no! What's going on here? I think I messed up. Alright, let me go ahead and put that on here. I missed a step here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Copy, paste. There we go. That's what I wanted. All right. Rename that 6. Copy, paste, rename that 7. I use the arrow keys to make it easier for me. We're almost done. This is what makes it really difficult for me. Like people who don't like tedious work, this might not be for you. But if you really, really want to work on it, it doesn't really matter if it's for you or not. This is for your viewers. Who cares about your feelings? I'm just kidding. Do what you feel makes you happy. I don't care. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. Alright. Let's see what we got here. Almost. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. I know it looks weird, and that's fine. Nobody does it perfect on the first time, and this is just me trying to rush it. I'm not trying to sit here and do a whole bunch of stuff. All right. And I should have it pretty much flat at this point. All right. Flat animations, we're done, we're good, we're Gucci. We got the first part, we got 9 frames. Just from that simple movement. This is why animation is difficult in the first place, but we'll be okay. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and hit the new workspace and we're gonna go to animation. And this is where the magic happens. So I will tell you that anybody who has an older PC that's DDR3 or whatnot, you're probably not going to be able to do this without having to wait hours. I like to bring up my stuff here, scroll that a little bit so I can take a look at it. Now here's where you want to, where you're going to be here. So we started off with paint layer 1 and we worked our way up. So that's how our animation is going to be. So we're going to go ahead and copy create a duplicate frame starting off. Then we're going to do the same here for the next frame. Create a different duplicate frame. Same for here. And we're going to keep on doing that all the way here. All right, once you're done with that, it's pretty much smooth sailing. We're just going to clear out some of these areas. And what I usually do, so that way it doesn't, like the animations don't overlap, we create blank frames right behind them. It cuts off any of the animations overlapping. And that's how you get that done. And then if you want to start all over, you can go ahead and grab this, put it over here, or make a copy, however you want to do it. You will figure it out. And then I just remove the keyframes here. They're not necessary. Now, keep in mind, if you're doing a continuous roll around, you don't want to clear these keyframes in the beginning until you are done. Please make sure that this is the last thing that you do ever, along with these blanks too. So you really want to make sure that you get your duplicates, and if you're going to use the same layer over and over again, you'll start right here and you'll do it, and it'll just look like a whole bunch of lines going across. Now there is a way that you can do it without worrying too much, and I'm going to show you how I do it. Oh no, looks like we messed up here. You can move these at any time, so don't worry about messing up. You just have to drag it. All right, and then generally, to copy it all, if you wanted to do a continuous animation over and over again, while it would look horrible if you did, you can do that as well. You just go right here, copy this area, press copy to clipboard, put all these open again. It's a pain in the butt. You got to click them all over again, or you're not going to be able to see the animation. Then I go over here and I just put paste from clipboard. And then you just got a long continuous thing as much as you want. If you want to play around with it and do something different, you can. So for example, what would I do next? What if I wanted it to turn backwards? I would just grab it right over here, put these right there where it needs to be. I don't know why it's acting funky. And then it'll have an animation that looks like just going back and forth. And that's pretty much it. And then if you want to test it out, you go over here. Let's say our frame ends at 16 right here. So we'll do start here at 16, start at 0, and then let's just go ahead and test it out and see what it looks like. So as you can see, that's your animation. Very simple. You can adjust the play speed or the frame rate. So if it looks too blocky, just go ahead and slow it down. If your frame rates are too choppy, you can drop them down so that way it looks good. I drop it to 15 and it looks like it's a smoother animation. And you can smoothen it out as much as you want. You can increase the speed as much as you want. So if I wanted to speed it up with the drop frame rate, we can do that. You can adjust it however you want with the wheel. And that, my friend, is how you do animation. And I hope that you guys learned a little bit of something. If you guys want to see more of these videos, just go ahead and let me know, and I will be glad to. I won't be doing these too often as I only got a few visitors coming in. But anyways, I'm out of here. That's it for me for today. Hope you have a great day. I will be back here at 9:30 where we will be streaming Oni, and I hope to see you there. Bye-bye, everybody.